Good morning, everyone. This is Jeffy Kennedy, also writing as Jennifer K. Lambert, author of epic fantasy romance. I'm here with my first cup of coffee and a cat. Um, I feel like these things all go together: coffee, writing, cats. No stepping on the keyboard. Excuse us. He's just very inconsiderate of the camera. Killian, of course, for those of you not on video. Um, yes, so good morning. Ah, today is, say it with me, Friday. Woohoo! May 15th. Ooh, the Ides of May. Hi, baby. Sorry, I got totally distracted by this cat, which was no doubt his intention. Attention on me. It's exciting because yesterday, actually, was release day for Blades Books and the Bandit. Woohoo! Very exciting stuff. It's kind of funny. I almost forgot to promote it entirely. Fortunately, there are some lovely people out there on my excuse us. Right. I'm going to go let him out. Hang on. Okay, let's try this again without feline distractions. Blades Books and the Bandit out in the world. So happy. Almost forgot to promote, which actually feels really good. So I feel like I have been in this place for easily the last 10 years, maybe a little bit longer than that, where I have been hustling nonstop. And I feel like some of it started when we moved to Santa Fe. I did a blog post. This was in 2009, uh, back when, back in the old days when I wrote blogs and people read them. Um, it's my old lady voice. Actually, it's my old man voice. What I don't know what my old lady voice would sound like. Probably just like this. Uh, but I know I wrote a blog post entitled Where Did I Pack My Writing Career?" Because that whole transition of leaving Laramie, moving here, uh, getting David retired and into school and all of these things. It was big. It was a big transition for us, especially for him. He had never lived outside of Wyoming in his entire life and had, um, not lived in a new place, with unfamiliar customs and so forth. So it was just a big transition and it took a lot of energy. And also, I was at a writing career crossroads at that point in my life, trying to figure out what I was doing. Right. The nonfiction book had come out in 2004, and my narrative nonfiction had not garnered any interest. I know I have never written it. And, oh, I'm going to sneeze. At least I successfully paused that time and managed to not blow out your eardrums. You're welcome. So, um, yeah, I had written this book started shopping it in like 2007. It'd taken me a while to write it. Um, and it was my very first fantasy romance. And that was the one that was way too cross genre. And I really thought, like when my essay collection was published in 2004, Wyoming Trucks, True Love, and the Weather Channel, that my writing career had started, and instead it was just like a little, and also that was hitting the era of blogging, as I say, and so I didn't no longer had my nonfiction, semi lucrative magazine writing career either. David had retired, was going back to school. We needed monies. We needed the monies. And um, I was still working the day job, but that was getting more tenuous all the time. Nothing to do with my moving here because I'd worked from home, but yeah, the times they were changing, and my it was getting more and more difficult for me to be billable within my company, within my particular niche, and I was branching out doing different kinds of things within the company, but it was getting more and more dicey, and I was not writing consistently. I wanted to be able to write more consistently. So all of this is a very long way of saying that I really started putting, metaphor of choice, nose to the grindstone. I started to get very, very serious about producing writing. In fact, it was 2012 when I really started tracking my progress counts, tracking my in greater detail. I had been writing before then, and I produced books, but that was when I got really serious about paying attention to my process and how fast I actually created. Then in 2015, I was laid off, downsized. So that was when I decided to try to make the full time writing thing happen. And at first, I overdid it and I burned out, and I had to recover from that and reassess. I've talked about some of this, and I could talk about it more if people are interested. But uh, you know, getting into like trying to write full time, 2016 is when I started writing the Sorceress Moons books, which was my first serious effort at writing an indie series from the beginning, not just continuing self published books from my previous trad published series. I didn't make much money on my first trad published books. And it was Annie Belay. I remember asking her because she was talking about her self publishing earnings. And I asked her why she was making so much more money than I was. And she said it's the self publishing. And I do think that was true at the time. Um, and I also became very good friends with Grace Draven at that time. And she was making such great money. Radiance had been such a smash hit. So all of these things were happening, and I really started getting serious about doing rapid release. So for Sorceress Moons, I did those first 4 books with trying to release them, I think, every 30 to 60 days. And I know that there are those of you out there who are still mad at me that it took me so long to do books 5 and 6, but things happen. But that sort of put into motion this machine, and I've been thinking about this a whole lot. The self-publishing machine where you try to release as often as possible, and I've always been a huge proponent of that. The best promotion is to write the next book. That if you're going to put effort into marketing and promotion, you write the next book. And I have written a lot of books, and it's been pointed out to me um, that most of these books that I've written in my now rather copious list have been in the last 10 to 15 years. So it's been a lot. And I see other people in the self publishing world caught up in this thing where they are feeling like they have to produce all the time, one book after another. And it's leading to the AI slop. It's leading to the people doing this whole thing with the minimum acceptable content. That's not the exact phrase. I can't think of what it is now. Craig Martell came up with it in the 20 books to 50K group. Minimum viable content. That was it. Minimum viable content. What a terrible way to think of your books. I'm sorry, Craig. I would say this to his face. I think that's anathema. I think that's a horrible way to look at your books. Minimum viable content. Just go work at a bank instead. Work at the post office. There's always work at the post office. Uh, so yeah, and I've seen other people going through this. I have another good friend who actually started in on doing the rapid release because she saw me doing it. I didn't know this at the time. She told me later that she saw me doing it and thought, well, if Jeffy can do it, I can do it, which was true. Yeah, and she actually did it better than I did and made some serious money, but also just about killed herself. And I was chatting with her yesterday and just talking about giving ourselves a break. And a couple of things have come to my mind lately. I saw Becca Syme, who I do admire greatly, and I've taken her class on the Better Faster Academy. And I think she has a lot of really good points about finding your personal strengths and using those to improve your ability to write and to run your business. Uh, and probably her book is excellent. But I was skimming through, she sent a chapter on like assessing your business. And I realized how much of that is geared towards self publishing. And it's I don't know if she intended it that way. Maybe I just read it that way because this is absolutely no shade to Becca because, as I said, I think she's great and probably one of the best resources out there. But I read it as that your author business, all of her points seem to be pointed towards self publishing perspective. And my author business is hybrid. And I am very, very fortunate, and I am counting my lucky stars that I've gotten this trad publishing deal. I'm getting another trad publishing deal, and it's enough money now that I can back the way off of this self publishing hamster wheel because that's how it begins to feel after a while. And I see other people doing this, being on the hamster wheel, that you just feel like you never stop running. And it's releasing books, release a book, write the next book, release a book, write next book. And it's grueling and it's very difficult to live that way, especially if you're feeling like you're keeping the wolf from the door, as a friend of mine said, by doing this, right? That you've got to be in there pounding at the keyboard as if the keyboard is somehow creating this invisible wall that will protect your home and keep you from falling to the wolves, right? That's how it feels. And that's not a good way to live. So, uh, how do you get off of the hamster wheel? It's difficult because once you get in it, it's difficult to break the cycle. And I appreciated the well wishes from many of you from my last week's podcast, and all of the virtual. I'm sure the ones that don't quite make it to me. All of the telepathic thoughts of wishing me well, which I greatly appreciate. Getting that royalty check felt like life changing, and it's funny because it reminds me of a story that Melinda Snodgrass told me, because she has been best friends with George R. R. Martin for 30 years. And she said she remembered when he got his first six-figure deal and he had the check for like $100,000. And he said, "This is life-changing money." And she said, "No, this isn't life-changing money. You'll know when you get life-changing money." And Melinda, used to write for Star Trek Next Generation, and she's done very well for herself. She also has family oil and gas money, so that helps a whole lot. Uh, so she has a different perspective. Well, it's funny how different people have different perspectives on like how much money do you need, right? What's life changing money? But it wasn't just getting that royalty check. It wasn't just the book deal, although those things made a big difference. It was knowing that the money was going to be there now. and that I did not have to stay on the hamster wheel. Like being on the hamster wheel keeps the little light bulb going. Is that an old metaphor? You all know what I'm talking about. Like when you are on the ergonomic machine that like generates electricity and lights the light bulb. Um, yeah, like you're constantly watching that light bulb and it starts to dim and dim. And this is like people watching their sales. And right now there's a lot of panic over the fact that Amazon sales seem to be dropping tremendously. And it's hard to tell if it's just KU, if it's the times, if Amazon is screwing with people. People are getting different messages depending on who they talk to, which is not unusual for Amazon, but so it goes. But that's one of the things is if your main income is from Amazon, you're beholden to them, and there's no legal framework there, right? Your agent can't go argue with Amazon for you. Amazon says, oh well, we think these are what your sales are, take or leave it. And what are you going to do? Class action lawsuit? I don't know. I'm still thinking it's going to happen, but uh yeah. So I am counting my blessings that I am a little able to step off of the hamster wheel. And the light bulb has not gone out. I mean, I guess that's if we're going to extend that analogy. Yeah, the the light bulb has not gone out, and I can be. It's connected to a different electrical source here. We'll just do that to extend the analogy. Um, Light bulb's on and it's going to stay on, and I've got a lot of battery in there to keep it on. And so yeah, stepping off that hamster wheel and looking at what that feels like. And one of the things it feels like is I stopped looking at my Amazon numbers. I was looking at them daily, and when I said to a friend of mine that I thought I was going to stop looking at them daily, she was kind of appalled that I had been. But, like, hey, I know people who are looking at them hourly, who are monitoring them all the time. Okay. So, like, my daily wasn't so bad. But yeah, last week, um, a week ago today, I stopped recording in my spreadsheet my daily numbers and income. I started doing that so that I could budget, so that I would know what my income was going to be a couple of months down the line and try to balance the finances that way. But that's a thing you have to do when you're going month to month, right? And right now I am feeling like it doesn't really matter how the release went yesterday. I have not looked at my rankings, I've not looked at my sales. And let me tell you, people, let me tell you, it is so goddamn freeing. It's like that hamster wheel is, I don't know. It's under the shroud in the corner. I'm like not even, I don't care if it gets rusty. And wow, that is so much better for me. Um, it has been a surprisingly emotional week for me for a couple of different reasons. And one of them is this realizing that the wolf is no longer at the door, and which ended up being like almost a moment of grief. I couldn't believe I got so emotional about it. Um, some other things happened that I made me have to reevaluate, like where my happiness comes from. And um, yeah, it's a it's a funny place to be at in my life, but also a good place. Those of you who have been listening for a long time probably know that, like how tumultuous the last few years have been. But yeah, this stepping away from the hamster wheel. I know I keep saying that over and over again, but light bulb stayed on. No wolves at the door. I'll take a deep breath. Um, yeah, and I will talk to you all next week. You all take care. Bye bye.